Well, hey there, podcast buddies. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Scarlett. I feel like we are so close to the end of the season, and I am just really excited.
Because we are so close to the end of this season. We're at the penultimate episode already. And it feels
wild.
It's so crazy.
It's wild and it's crazy and it feels very, very fast. We've noted before that this was a short season. Every other season is coming at 14 episodes, and this one's coming in at 10.
I think season 1 was 10, and then the next 2 are 13, and then they went back to 10 for this one.
Yeah, that feels about right.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Okay. But still, like the last 2 episodes, or 2 seasons, we've been used to dealing with more than 10 episodes. It went so quickly.
I know. I think the 3-episode drop makes it go by really fast. But I do prefer the 10 episodes to per season. I just feel like it feels tighter. I mean, it remains to be seen, but I think it feels like we're at an end where it's not like, oh, there's so much happening. Like, I don't know, like weirdly less time makes it feel a little bit more concise and boiled down in Scarlet version.
Yeah, as opposed to like the last last season where there was a bunch of other storylines that were going off and they never really were able to like bring them to a gratifying end for what we were hoping for. We had mentioned that a couple of times. We're like, what's going on with Nick? Because they had to leave so much on the cutting room floor there, and like we wanted to see more of Emily and Syl's relationship and how like that how that was going. So it was nice to like get those things sort of like some of those storylines kind of wrapped up in this without having to go on like a half an episode tangent on them, like a quick little drop mention of things, and it tied things up with a nice tidy bow. They were concise. We should learn a thing or two.
Take note.
What are you saying? We talk a lot or something?
I'm sorry, take note? So many. We've taken so many notes.
So many.
We need to pull a Scarlet and distill it down is what it comes down to.
So what did you guys think of this episode this week?
I loved it. It made me feel good for the most part until the end when everything gets turned upside down and you're like, holy shit, I can't imagine what's coming. Like, I'm just pretty desperate for the finale, but I'm excited because it just seems so open-ended. Like, I feel like there's so many different ways I don't even want to get lost in trying to guess where it's going. I have no idea. I just like where it's going, but this felt like a nice break from a lot of that. It wasn't an easy watch necessarily, but I feel like it was progress. I feel like this episode just felt like progress for everyone involved, and the relationships were all kind of settling in, and you know, that's certainly uncomfortable between like June and Moira, but Luke and June found like a little bit of a rhythm, and I don't know. I think overall, I felt good until the last 30 seconds.
Wow, I had a completely different experience from you. My stomach was in knots the entire episode. Starting pretty early, like right around the time that June got on the phone with Larry, and I was sitting there on the edge of my office chair just watching this with my hands like clenched around my stomach, like just leaning forward, like I was waiting for something really bad to constantly happen. Like there was something that they did to keep this like very subtle undercurrent of anxiety. Like it wasn't in your face, but it was just so there. And it was making me like so nervous. And yeah, this episode was definitely about progress in a lot of respects. But by the time we got to the end, I feel like all that progress went right out the window for June. And June's the person that really fucking matters in this situation. And the poor thing, it's like everything went a step forward and then she got thrown 3 steps back.
Boy, that's exactly how I ended my notes. But I agree with you. I don't mean that I didn't feel good. I had that exact same experience through the watch. None of my fears came to fruition. Like I was nervous about every step of the way. Like I was really worried about when she went to go meet Nick and she's traveling down that road. And at first I'm like, oh, it reminds me of when they met on the bridge. And then I'm like, no, it reminds me of the Waterfords driving to Canada. I'm like, they're going to snatch her. I'm like, what is she doing taking this baby anywhere near? Like, so like I was constantly terrified. It always turned out okay. And then I felt good by the end. That's probably why I feel so good, because she's still in Canada.
Right. I had that exact same sensation, like when my heart was pounding out of my chest as soon as she and Luke were like having their what felt like a final goodbye, and like I was just like, oh no, is this the last time they're going to see each other? Oh my God, she's going close to the border. Oh my God, she's going to get caught. What's going on? Is Nick a double agent? Because like all of this is still up in the air. And like it's unrelenting in that regard. I have a theory as to why this episode felt so anxiety inducing and unrelenting in that anxiety. And it's because, and Scarlett had mentioned this briefly before we started recording, but it's because the soundtrack, or the lack thereof, is so like, you don't really notice that there's no music there, which makes you latch onto every single bit of dialogue that's happening. There's no like loud musical reprieve. Like we get some of the Doom music and we get some of the Discord music. Like we get occasionally like little flips of piano and like things of that nature, but it makes every single sound and every single bit of dialogue feel that much more weighty.
Yeah, that is probably exactly that. Yeah.
You're right that it's not that like in your face like songs, like there's no songs to look up. But you're right, too, that I took my cues from the music. Like, whatever subtle music would be in the background, like, if it started getting discordy, I got very nervous. When it was, like, harmonious and, like, very, like, choral and together and triumphant, I'm like, okay, things are good. Like, I 100% was taking my cues from the sound, whatever music was playing in the background.
Yeah, so great job on the music engineering on this episode.